Hey guys, how's it going? It's Kyle here with another Exos Heroes video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the new heroes that just joined the game. So we got this guy here, Dana, and Lang. These three new characters just got added on. Not even going to attempt to pronounce this dude's name, but this guy is the general level character out of this new faction. So here, let's take a look at his kit. Actually looks kind of badass. First thing, he's a Thrust 3 character. Deals damage to an attacker upon taking damage. Afflicts attacker with stun for 5 to 12 turns based on own current health. When the attack hits, gains mana. So just typical Thrust 3 passive there. Then Breath of Mana. Front row allies permanently gain 1 mana. I really like this passive here. Whether it be the back row version of it, the front row, or just all of them. Always a good passive to have. Then build formation. This is kind of interesting. Mark grants build formation mark on an ally with lower defense than self at the start of battle. Increases health of the marked ally by 50%. Of the target's defense for each build formation mark on all allies, 50% effectiveness on all for back row heroes. So more survivability in probably a more fair way than having to deal with Tantalo, for example. And it's another way that dodges FC Schmid, so potentially could be someone that if you're looking for survivability, this might be your dude. One thing though, him having to have the highest defense, so you're probably going to want to build him with a Frost set. He has a Thrust character, so they have a naturally high base defense anyway, so might not need to totally go all in on Frost, but that's something to keep in mind. Then he has Life and Death. Overtime effect increases health and defense of all allies by 10%, and block of front row allies by 5% of own defense. I really like that, being able to increase more block, especially his whole goal is to really try to increase survivability. That's a really good way to do it. I like that it's not too much, it's just 10% of health and defense. Let's see if it actually makes a difference. Another thing too is we won't have signature force for him for quite a while, so potentially it's hard to get too excited about this dude. Lastly, Undisturbed increases own block value by 30% if there are 3 or more allies in the front row at the start of battle. I really like that as well for what he's trying to accomplish, which is a ton of survivability for your team. I think all of these things, block is one of the things that in this game that can actually make you survive the really high damage characters. So him constantly finding ways to increase the block percentage and actually increase the block value, I think you're really going to notice just how tanky he's going to help your team out with. Okay, and then let's check his A1 here. Well, you got to target a person with a status effect, but it's going to stun the person with the highest attack that is not affected by status effects for 5 turns. That is a bizarre move. So you want to target someone that you've done something to with the status effect, and then you're going to be able to indirectly stun the person that has no status effects with the highest amount of attack. And usually the person with the highest amount of attacks is the biggest threat, so being able to stun them is actually kind of nice. He has a very basic A2, which deals 255% damage to all enemies. So overall, his kit, it's really hard to get excited by generals that have no signature force and no fake core, especially like all general characters. They have a stat requirement where they either need to be the highest HP, attack, or defense. His is the defense version. I think that out of all the requirements to fill, that's probably one of the easiest ones. So it's not too crazy to expect him to be able to do that. But at the same time, we're just gonna, this is a really good effect, just like Dorka, just like, you know, Schmid to some degree, that they're a good character limited by all these artificial stat boosts that they won't have for quite a while. And then seems like they're rumoring being able to move this guy around to other nations. He's a really good character if you can move him to another nation. I definitely would use him if we're going to be able to take advantage of their signature force, for example. That'd actually be pretty crazy. So I think a really good character. Kit's actually interesting. Seems like they're just putting all the really good kits on gold fake cores, and then they're just making all the black ones. They're making it very obvious. Like we can actually do an interesting kit. We're just only gonna bother to do it on gold fake cores, or like level or generals or gold fake cores. So now we got Dana here. Let's check out her kit, and then just typical Mana Absorb 3. Nothing additional there. So when we see a Mana Absorb 3 character, we know they're going to be very slow and have decently high attack. And then she has the deals 63% damage to all enemies, afflicts target with burn, dealing, okay, so just super not worth talking about kit so far. Then we got the A2, deals 525% damage to one enemy. If the caster has build formation mark, deals 250% additional piercing damage. So this move hits like an absolute truck, especially paired with the new character, but she's a slow character, has nothing really going for her from a passive perspective, and damage is really not something you're really missing out on too much in this game. So anyway, I think this is actually really good, and the potential definitely has potential later on if, with fake cores and stuff like that. Maybe a little bit extra thrown onto her kit, but this is one of the hardest hitting moves I've seen, especially just with 3 mana, no need for any burst capabilities there. Just with 3 mana, this is probably some of the highest amount of damage you could possibly do. So I think that potentially can make her useful, especially if this character is really prevalent and survivability is an issue, or if actually being able to break through is an issue. Like, that's gonna hit very hard. Then we got, let's check out Lang. But when it comes to these kits, as you can already see though, like when it comes to these kits, the second we get off of the general, like there's a lot of discussion potential here, but then we look at the passive here and it's just like it's so small. And then now let's look at Lang. Mana utilization, so gonna kind of like typical set distribution of like Bathory. Increases all attack of allies based on mana count, and then hunting instinct. If the caster has build formation mark, afflicts hunting instinct mark on the target when own attack hits, and then her afflicts sleep to enemies with 3 or more hunting instinct marks for 7 turns at the start of the turn, and removing all. Okay, unless this character hits multiple times, I really don't see how you can ever expect to be able to land asleep. So if the caster with the build formation mark afflicts the hunting instinct mark, and then it takes 3 hunting instinct marks to afflict sleep for 3 or more, or for 7 turns, it's just, why do they word stuff like this? I don't. Why can't they just be like, hey, I don't know. I don't know if they want 3 mark. I guess it kind of makes sense in this case scenario. There's been other case scenarios where it's like, oh, puts a mark on them, and then that mark lowers their defense. It's like, why don't you just say that they lower defense? Whereas this is still a weird way to word it, where you have the marks and stuff like that. But I guess at the same time, it's kind of potentially an interesting mechanic depending on the rest of the kit, because most of these mana utilization characters just have like a single AoE move. Okay, so 178% damage to all enemies, and then 300. Yeah, like this is the typical mana utilization style character kit here with the 357% damage to all enemies, and then another smaller AoE here. I can see it if you fully max this character out, like I'm talking all the way through here, and you could reset the turns. Maybe what you can do is you can go the big AoE, and then you can auto again, that's 2 stacks, and then you can sleep them. But then sleep is really not that good of a debuff anyway. You can like send it, have FC shell, so you can like AoE, auto, go, shell brings them, and then boom, you can sleep someone almost immediately. Like, I don't know. And it's the only way you would ever do this with so much resources invested, and you need to have this dude on your team as well. Until they actually give you a reason to really want to invest in other characters in the game besides just whatever your main arena team is with the right signature force. So all these kits have potential, but then it's hard to even evaluate them because the kit, when they're actually viable, will be massively different. So we don't even know how much better they're going to be with their new kit when they actually become someone to talk about when they have their fake core. So I think it's just, I think you guys all agree that that is an issue, and it makes it to where like everyone loses in this scenario. They're losing out on potential money for people wanting to pull it. We lose because we have characters that are new and we're supposed to be excited about, but we can't. And so them addressing this would be mutually beneficial for both parties. So that's pretty much what my opinion can possibly be on characters that don't have a fake core and don't have a core memory, and they're brand new generals, or a brand new general. So all right, well, what are we gonna do? Need to build up that whole other faction. So but that's pretty much it. Let me know down in the comments below what you guys think about these new heroes in the game, and with that, guys, I'm out. Peace.